Guys, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. I'm going to share my screen with you here for just a moment to get through some of this stuff. So again, I'm Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. I am facilitating this workshop for SCORE. It's an opportunity for you guys to get all of your marketing questions answered, and I will do my best to give you guys as much value as I possibly can. Before we get into it, just a few ground rules. We are recording this, so SCORE has this and they can distribute it back out to other people that may benefit from it. I've muted everybody. With your questions, you can just post them in the chat. If we do need to unmute, we can certainly do that, but it tends to keep things a lot quieter if I keep people muted. So, and like I said, I will do my best to give you guys as much value as possible and answer everyone's questions. I'm going to start, bear with me, by just going through a couple of what I consider foundational things with marketing. If you've been on these calls before, it'll be some review for you, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll get into your questions. In the meantime, if you guys do want to post some of your questions in chat while I'm going through this, once I'm done, I'll jump into those questions and we can get going. So I think doing an Ask Me Anything about marketing, I think it's really important to first start and talk about what the definition of marketing actually is to make sure we're on the same page. So to me, I like to keep things simple. Marketing is getting someone who has a need or a problem that you can solve to know, like, and trust you. We all do business with people that we know, like, and trust. And the job of our marketing is to help people find us so that they can get to know us, start to like us, and then trust us. And when people trust you, they're going to be much more willing to take that next step to have you help them solve their problems and help them get to where they want to be. I think a lot of people overcomplicate marketing. It can be very confusing. There's all kinds of different channels. One of the reasons why I'm doing this today is to try and help eliminate some of that confusion for you. But marketing success, to me, hinges upon having a plan. Okay, you've got to have a plan that you can follow. When you have a plan, it stops you from getting distracted, and you know exactly what you need to focus on. The fundamentals of marketing lay the foundation for success. Okay, I look at the fundamentals of marketing as the marketing strategy trilogy. You've got to know who your target market is, who you're trying to reach. You got to have really good messaging that's clear and engaging to that target market. And then you have to have a system or a plan that you can follow. I love this quote from Michael Jordan. He said, "Get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise." When you've got the marketing fundamentals in place, everything you do after that works much better. A lot of times when people are running into issues with their marketing, it can be traced back to one of these three fundamentals. There's a problem in the fundamentals that are creating problems down the line. Okay, so the fundamentals are super, super important. And by the way, they do not change. They've been the same for years. They're still the same. They're going to be the same 20 years from now. Okay. Once you've got the fundamentals in place, then you can start to look at, okay, how am I going to expand my marketing? What are the more tactical elements that I'm going to get involved in? And I look at them like this. You've got your website. You have offline marketing, which is your content, your speaking. It could be networking that you're doing, direct mail, anything that you're doing outside of the online environment is what I would consider offline marketing. But then you have content, search engine optimization, social media, email marketing, and paid advertising. Okay, you can build a very successful business if you nail even just a portion of these elements. But these are the main elements. Most marketing channels and tactics will fall into one of these 8 elements. So we're going to get into your questions. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. Typically I cover this at the end, but I'm going to do it right now because I think it's going to be a lot easier. I have a lot of resources that I think you guys may find helpful. If you want to get those resources, the recording of this call and actually the recording of previous calls, you can just go to rialtomarketing.com/AMA. And when you do that, this is what the page looks like. If you just put your name and your email in here, click Get Resources, you will get some emails from us. The first one will have the link to the resources. And all of those resources are right here. So there's a lot of resources to help you with the fundamentals that I just discussed. So I think you'll get a ton of value out of it. If you want it, just go to that page, fill it out. If you've been on these calls before, the information hasn't changed, so there's no need to re-sign up. The link is still the same, all that good stuff. So I will put this in the chat. Oops. Okay, bear with me, guys. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So that's in the chat if you want it. So other than that, that's all I got. I'm here to answer your questions. So just jump into the chat. Down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little chat icon. If you click that, you can post your questions in there, and I will do my best to answer them as completely as I possibly can. Okay, so Ari is asking about, once you've found your target market, how do we know what they want? That is a great question. So there's a few ways you can do this. If you've been in business for a while and you already have past customers that fall into your ideal target market, you can reach out to them and ask them questions. Okay, one of the resources that is in the resources that you can sign up for is customer interview questions. Your customers oftentimes can articulate what you do, why they buy from you much better than you can yourself, because when we're on our business, it's really hard sometimes to see the forest through the trees. So interviewing your customers is a great place to start. The other thing, if you are just starting out, okay, is to reach out to people in your target market and have a similar conversation. You're going to have to reach out to more people to get more people to talk to you, because it's cold outreach. But reaching out to people that are in your target market and asking them those questions is another great place to start. The other thing you can do is turn online. There are Facebook groups, there are LinkedIn groups, there are forums. There is so much information online where you can jump into those areas where your target market is and where they're looking for information, where they're asking questions. And that's another great place to just jump in and see what's going on. What kind of questions are people answering? What kinds are asking? What kind of problems are they having that they're looking to solve? You can get a lot of information online in groups and forums as well. So I hope that's helpful. But the first place I always recommend people start is with interviewing existing customers or reaching out to people cold that are in your target market and interviewing them. They will tell you exactly what you need to know. But ideally, you want to get it to a point where you know your customers, the problems that they're having, and what they're looking for better than they know themselves. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, next question I got here is, what is the best way to launch a marketing campaign? Facebook, email? This is a loaded question. The best way, I think, is to take advantage of the different marketing channels that you have. If you have an existing email list, that is a great place to start. Okay. Your marketing campaign, it also kind of depends on, are you selling products? Are you selling services? Is it some type of event that you're promoting, right? That, I think, is also going to determine what you choose to do. But your email list is people that are already familiar with you. Okay. Anytime you can reach out to people warm, right? People that already know you, that is the best place to start. It is going to be much more difficult to convert people that don't know you, that have never heard of you, right? So starting in areas where you have warm traffic or a warm list is a great place to start. Your email, your social media pages, wherever those may be, right? If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever those are, that is a great place to also stay in front of your existing target market. If you are doing paid ads, Facebook is a great place to target. You can target people on Facebook that already know you, because what you can do is Facebook has what they call a Facebook pixel, and you can install that pixel on your website so that it will track visitors to your website. You can track people that have expressed interest in your business on Facebook already, right? So you can target warm leads, warm people on Facebook as well, to get that campaign in front of them from a paid standpoint too. But referral partners, if you have referral partners, that's a great place. I mean, any of your existing marketing channels, you're going to want to look at to determine, can I take advantage of this channel to get this marketing campaign going? Any channels that you have, I think you're going to want to take advantage of, but I would take advantage of the warm channels first. So the people that already know about you, I would take advantage of those first. Okay, so next question here is, how do you view the difference between crafting your unique value prop and your positioning statement? I think you can really get into the weeds on this stuff. People talk about your unique value proposition, which is, what makes you different? Why would somebody want to buy from you? The way we look at messaging, again, I like to keep it simple. And when we create messaging, we follow a storytelling framework. And that storytelling framework makes it very easy for you to communicate clearly and consistently how you solve the unique problem that your customer has and what benefits that they are going to experience. And so we don't necessarily look at it from this is your unique selling proposition or your unique value proposition, but within that framework, and the framework is in the tools if you sign up for that, what we're doing with that framework is we're inviting your customer into a story where your customer is the main character or the hero and your company is the guide. And we do that because our customers are not looking for a hero. They're looking for somebody who can help them get from where they are to where they want to be. So with the storytelling framework, we're positioning you as the guide. And guess what? Guides in stories have all the authority. They have all the credibility. The guide has been where the hero is currently, and they have solved that problem. So when you do that with your messaging, I think what you really want to do is you obviously, this comes back to the initial question of your target market. You need to understand the problem that your customers have and how you uniquely solve that. And then that is how you're going to then bring that into your messaging. And anytime you're talking about messaging, I would tell you to be clear, not clever. If you get cute and clever with your messaging and you make people start to think about what you mean, you are going to lose them. We are very short on our attention spans at this point. Less than 8 seconds, I think, is the stat that I saw last, which is not a lot of time. So in your messaging, you have to be clear enough so that they can understand quickly how they're going to benefit from working with you and what you do. So I hope that answers your question. I would not get too deep into the weeds. Your unique value proposition in its most basic form is what makes you different from other people. And if you take a look at the storytelling framework that we use, you will instantly communicate that unique value proposition as you go through and use that tool. But your unique value proposition and your positioning, they go hand in hand. They're supporting. Your positioning is how you position yourself in the market as how you are different, right? So for example, okay, there are tons of marketing providers out there. We are a dime a dozen. How do we position our company? We position our company as someone that focuses on the fundamentals first. But that positioning is also our unique value proposition. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, drop another question in and I'll do my best to clarify. Okay, next question I've got in here is, I own a home remodeling construction company. We're shifting our target market to high-end projects. What is the best way to target that group? For example, what is the best way to approach this group? Networking, social media. That is going to depend on what kind of relationships you have currently. Okay, so one of the fastest way to get new business is referrals. Okay, so if you have existing past customers that were in that target market, I would definitely reach out to those people to let them know what you're doing, right? Because people in that market tend to know people that are already in that market. So referrals, strategic partnerships, right? Through networking, right? Who else is already doing business with your target market? Those could be people. Typically, you want to try and find referral partners that come before you in the process, right? So for example, in home remodeling and construction, that could be an architect, or it might be a designer of some type. Those people come before you in the process and they could refer you into those projects. So I like to recommend people look at referral partners that come before them in the process. That doesn't mean that you can't get referrals from people that are working with your target market that come after you in the process, but people that come before you can typically be better. You can obviously, with social media, especially with paid advertising on social media, with Facebook, the targeting on Facebook is very, very detailed and in-depth. So you can, if you were running paid campaigns, you could really hone in on that high-end target market, go to specific geographic areas, specific income levels, all of those demographics you could use to target that high-end remodeling client. So social is another good way to do that. But then the other thing that I would think about too is where else are your high-end clients? Okay, once you know who those high-end clients are, where they are, the things that they're attracted to, where they get information, that is going to help you narrow in on where you need to go to reach them. So I hope that helps. Okay. Next question here is, what is the easiest or best way to schedule social media across several platforms? So, and then the question is, do you use StoryBrand framework? I have a list of SEO words for my website. Okay, so there's a few questions in here. Yes, we do use StoryBrand. So what they're referring to there, the storytelling framework that I told you about, is from a company called StoryBrand by Donald Miller. It works. There are thousands of businesses have used it to create clear, consistent messaging, which is why we like it. It just makes sense. It's simple for most clients to understand. So yes, it is StoryBrand that we use. Easiest and best way to schedule social media. There are multiple tools out there that you can use. We use one called Promo Republic, which I will put these in the chat. Promo Republic. Buffer is another really good one, and Hootsuite is another one. There are others, but if you, I would check them out. They're all, bear with me, they all work well. They make it easy to schedule and post on multiple platforms so that you can plan your social media content ahead of time. Most of them are fairly inexpensive, less than $50 a month, depending on what you're trying to do. The one thing I would be really careful of with scheduling software is it helps you put the content out there. But it's not just because you're posting on social media doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to attract a following, so posting consistently, I think, is that first level on social media where I call it laying ground cover. If somebody comes to your website, they like what they see, they go check out your social media pages, they're going to see that you're active, you're consistent, and not your last Facebook post was 8 months ago. Okay, so that helps support your credibility, but you're not going to generate a huge following on social media by just posting consistently. The next step from there, which you really can't do in scheduling software, is it's social. You gotta get out there and interact with people. You have to comment on people's posts. You have to reshare their content. You have to mention them in your content, right? All of those things. You have to get social, and that takes time to do that. So we use Promo Republic, like I said. It's a good one. Buffer, Hootsuite, they're great tools. Just know that they're not the end all be all for social media. It's going to help you, but there's some other steps you're going to have to take if you really want to build a following. Okay. And then the last part of that question, I have a list of SEO words for my website, but I have no idea what to do with those words. Yep. So typically with SEO, once you have those words, then you need to optimize your site for those words. You are not going to optimize your site in its entirety for one keyword. Typically, you are optimizing each page on the site for a specific keyword. So for example, your Denver home remodeling company, your homepage is probably going to be optimized around Denver home remodeling. Your other pages, you're not going to optimize for that same keyword, because if you do that, your pages are going to be competing against one another. So once you have your keywords, you need to identify which pages you're going to optimize for each keyword. And then you can use, going into this, we could go into the weeds real deep, but with SEO, you're going to have basic on-page stuff like title tags, meta descriptions, heading tags, and then the actual content on the page where you're going to sprinkle in those keywords. But you're going to use all on-page SEO to optimize your site for the keyword list that you have. So what I would recommend you do, I would do a search for on-page SEO. Frankly, if you go to our site and you go to our blog and click on the SEO category, you'll find a lot of different topics there on it as well. But for optimizing your site for SEO, you're going to look at on-page SEO, and within that on-page, you're then going to optimize each of those pages for the specific keyword that you want on that page. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So how much advertising and promotion is suggested for a new business? Again, this is kind of a loaded question. It really depends a lot. Most companies, if you were looking for a general number, I've seen it anywhere from 5 to 10% of your revenue. So 5 to 10% of your monthly revenue should go back into marketing. Now, that's going to depend heavily on how much profitability you have. Some services or products are much more profitable, and the more profit you have, then certainly the more opportunity you have to invest in your marketing. But the other thing too is it also depends on where you're at. If you're just starting out and you have no revenue, you got to look at how much money you have to invest in the company as a whole. And then you also want to make sure that you want to make sure you're getting the best return possible. But I'm going to tell you, marketing, it is an investment, and it takes time. There are very few things that you can do in marketing to get immediate results. They take time. Paid ads, you can get fairly quick results for, but again, paid ads, you can add up money real quick. So you do need to be careful about that. But it depends. I would tell you, whatever you can afford to put into your marketing, start slow, invest, and make sure that you're getting a return on that. And then you can start to build from there. Because once you know that you're getting a return on the investment, then you can put as much money as you want, right? Where people run into issues with their marketing is they invest and they're not getting a return, because then you're just sinking money into it. So I think you do need to be careful. But in general, most people look at 5 to 10% of overall revenue. Yeah. So what's the best social media place to put your advertising dollars? Facebook, Yelp, Google, wherever your target market is. Now, Google, everybody's target market is on Google. With Google Ads, you are targeting people that, from a marketing standpoint, we refer to as they're lower in the funnel. So they're much further, they're much closer to being ready to buy. Okay, because with Google, I can target keywords that have very high buying intent, which means they're searching, those terms are, I'm ready to buy, right? Red leather shoes, right? I'm searching for something that is very specific, right? That has high buying intent. So you can target high buying intent keywords with Google, which means most of those people are much further down the funnel and ready to buy. So you can generate faster, quicker business, I think, with Google Ads. But again, depending on the niche that you're in, it can be expensive, so you do need to have a clear understanding of how much it's costing you to get leads, but then on the back end, how profitable those leads are. Because if you're paying too much for leads and it's more than how profitable that lead's going to be, right? That's not a good thing, obviously. So you do need to keep track of your numbers to make sure that what you're doing from a paid ad standpoint is giving you a good return on your investment. Facebook ads, again, most target markets are on Facebook. So it can be a great place to go to generate leads. But Facebook, social media in general, people are much higher up the funnel. So, because we're not going on to social media looking to buy something in most cases. When we go onto Google and we search for something specific, there's buying intent. So with social media ads, you need to be much more prepared to nurture those leads as they come in, because they didn't go on to Facebook looking to buy something. You may have attracted them because you caught their attention, right? You caught their attention with the headline that talks about a problem that they have, and they go, oh, cool, I need to check that out, right? And then they check that out, but they're not really going on there to buy. So typically what you'll see with Facebook ads is somebody, especially service companies. Product companies are a little bit different, but service-based companies, they may be offering something of value, a checklist or a cheat sheet, or they might be doing a free masterclass or webinar, and then they're selling on the back end of that through that webinar or through email follow-ups that happen after somebody opts into something. So you got to keep that in mind. One of the things I would recommend you do if you are going to look at Facebook, if you just Google Facebook ads library, and if you go to the Facebook ads library, you can type in the name of any of your competitors and you can look at what they are doing from a Facebook ad standpoint. You can look at their active ads, past ads, and this can give you a really good idea of what's working for them and what's not. Typically if somebody's been running an ad for months on end, they're not doing that because it's not working. So you can really look at what they're doing and break that down to get a good indication of how you may want to approach it. Yelp I mean, again, it can work. There's all kinds of paid advertising online. I think you need to know that your target market's there, and you're going to test it. If you've never used it before, you're not going to know until you try it. So, you have to be willing to put some of that money in, test it, track it, and look at whether it's working or not. If it's not working, then you're going to want to move on. But Facebook and Google are obviously the biggest ones, and they're good places to start as long as you have the budget to do it. So next question is, I want to launch a workplace wellness program and use video conferencing. Let's see, and we'll be using a video conferencing took extensively, particularly because people are working at home. Do you have any recommendations on how to market the programs using our website and other tools? Also, challenges you see given the current business climate, resistance companies may have given their current mission and priorities, recommendations on how to research best tool to use. So first thing I will tell you is Zoom. People are so used to Zoom at this point. I think they are the 800-pound gorilla in this market right now. So I like Zoom. I do not have a lot of experience with other tools. Zoom works very well. We use it in our own business for client meetings, for stuff like this. So Zoom works really great. From a workplace wellness standpoint, this really is going to come back to your target market. Some in the current COVID environment, there are some people that have shifted completely to a virtual environment. There are some that are trying to go back to work. So it really depends on, what is your target market trying to do? Are they trying to get people back into the office and create a safe place for people to work, and minimize the risks? Or have they shifted to if not 100%, almost 100% virtual environment? Because that's going to determine, if you're trying to help people from a virtual standpoint or from an office standpoint, those are two different markets. So, and the people that are going 100% virtual have, I think, different challenges to keep their people engaged and excited about working than somebody that has people that are coming back into the office. So how you message that, I think, is really going to depend on what your target market is doing from a workplace standpoint right now. So bear with me. I'm just reading through the question again here. Yeah, so how to market the programs, through your website. I mean, to me, once you have the fundamentals in place, your target market, you've got good messaging, your website is the next place you are going to start. If you do not have a good website that has good content, that's clear, that engages your target market, it's going to be hard, because everybody's going online at this point, but two, your website, before this whole thing happened, it was the hub of your marketing. It still is. Everything you do from a marketing standpoint is driving people back to your website. So you've got to get that right. You have to have good, clear messaging. And there is some information in the tools and resources that you can get that talks about must-have website elements. But I would tell you, from a website standpoint, the biggest mistake most businesses make is they talk about themselves, and they talk about themselves too much. Our customers don't care about us. They care about what we can do for them, how we can help them. So when you're looking at your website and you're looking at selling on your website, you need to talk about your customers, the problems you solve for them, what success looks like, and what consequences they're now going to avoid because they're working with you. Other tools, I mean, you can go back to, looking at those. The main marketing channels that we look at are your website, what you're doing offline, right? So can you reach out to potential referral partners, again, that are working with your target market and get in place for something like workplace wellness? I would start looking at referral partners that are other consultants to your ideal clients. That you may be able to help as well. Your social media, I think, is a big one, but again, it's going to take time. Content is big, especially for people that are selling expertise and programs, so coaches, consultants, professional services. Content helps, one, attract your ideal clients, but two, it also helps position you as an expert and someone of knowledge within the space. So I hope that helps. Get that. So ways people are using Zoom and other conferencing tools for marketing purposes. So what I would tell you, this is a marketing purpose right here. So, using Zoom to get out in front of your potential ideal clients, your target market, to add value to them with workshops. Zoom is great. We use Zoom for initial discovery calls with potential clients to talk to them. Look, meeting face-to-face, it's the best way. But I would tell you, meeting face-to-face via Zoom, as long as you have video going, it's a close second. I think you can get to know people very well in this medium, and it is becoming much, much more accepted with what we're dealing with at this point. So we use Zoom all the time from a client communication standpoint, for meetings and for potential discovery calls ahead of time. I think if you are doing things like large webinars, you can use Zoom. Zoom does have a webinar feature. The webinar feature is different than the meeting feature. So what we're using today on Zoom is the meeting feature. If you're going to do large events, that kind of thing, I would probably focus more on the webinar side of it than the meeting side of it. But yeah, how you use Zoom, I think there are still a lot of opportunities for us to really maximize Zoom. But the way I see most people using it is for those initial client interactions and using it as a communication tool throughout the customer journey. I do see people using it for small conferencing as well. I'm not super familiar with how you use it, but you can set up private rooms within Zoom. So sometimes people are holding like small virtual events via Zoom, and then they set up breakout rooms so that group of attendees, I mean, I think the plan I have on Zoom, I can have up to 100 attendees. So you could bring larger groups in, then do smaller breakout groups within that as well. So there are people that are starting to use Zoom for virtual events as well. So next question. I'm a custom furniture maker, thinking about launching a single item production. Okay, so like a nightstand. Is it best to add this to my current website or create a new presence? Well, if it fits within your existing product offerings, then I would probably not recommend setting up another website. I think it's anytime you start to add additional websites or add additional properties like additional social channels, all of those things add complexity, and it's hard enough for a lot of people to manage one website, let alone two or three. So I think if you choose to set up another website to market it, I think you have to have a really strong reason to do it. So if it's totally different target market than what you're currently doing, that may be a reason to separate the two. But if it fits within what you're doing, it's a complement, it's an addition to what you're currently doing, I would probably not recommend setting up another site. I would sell it off of your existing site. Because then you also start to get into, do I have to set up a new brand? You set up a new brand, you got a new website, then you've got new social media channels. All of a sudden, you're now basically marketing two different companies, which again can be a challenge. I mean, if you got plenty of money and time, and you can bring people in to do that and manage it, then that may be doable. But for most small businesses, that is going to create a lot of challenges and a lot of work. So I own a company that offers a free service to help people find appropriate assisted living and memory cares and nursing homes for their clients. I started a Facebook group for local family caregivers. This has been a great way to connect with family caregivers. What are suggestions to get more members to join the group? And what are the key sites to ask clients to review your company? So I'm going to take the last part of that first. Key sites to ask people to review your company. For a lot of local businesses, Google is the best place to start. But then your Facebook page, there may be, again, I don't know your industry super well, but there could be potential industry specific sites. So like on the home service side of things, you have Angie's List and Home Advisor, places like that. If there are niche sites, I would look at those. The best place for most people to start is Google, which is going to be through your Google My Business page. So coming back to the Facebook group, what's the best way to suggestions to get more members to join? If you've got an existing email list, that is a good place to start. I would promote it on your website as well, to let people know that you've got that Facebook group, what the benefits are. You can reach out to and promote within the Facebook group, right? Do your people know others that could be? And you could run some type of contest, right? So the person that recruits the most people to the group, so you could run some type of contest to that. But I think the easiest way to get more members is to promote it within the group itself, because odds are they know other people that could potentially bring into the group. The other thing you could do is paid ads. So you could do paid ads within Facebook to generate more awareness to it as well. You can also promote it within other groups or promote it through your social posts. So are there other groups on Facebook that have your audience where they might find what you're doing valuable, right? You could, again, where's your target market? If you can identify other groups that they're involved in, you can get in front of them that way as well. But yeah, managing Facebook groups where your ideal clients are members is a great way to generate leads over time. It does take time to build that Facebook group. What if you're marketing to the corporate market? Any ways we need to adapt marketing strategy based on the current business climate? Again, this really does depend on what is going on with your target market in the corporate space. There are some companies that have, based on what's happening in their target market, they've had to shift their messaging quite a bit. And there are others that haven't really had to shift their messaging all that much. The problems that they're solving are still the same. They still exist even within this environment. So I think how you have to adapt really comes down to having a clear understanding of what is happening with your clients and with your target market. Because again, some businesses are starting to go back at this point. They're bringing people back into their offices. It may be different, right? They may have half their staff there. They may have to, they're physically distancing. They may have to wear masks, but they're still trying to work. And others haven't gone back at all. They're still taking the approach of, we're going to wait and see what happens. Remote working is working fine for us. So we're going to continue to do this until we get a clearer picture of how this is going to play out. So it really does depend on how heavily this is impacting your corporate clients, and having a good understanding of that, because that's then going to determine whether you have to shift your messaging. So I hope that helps. If it doesn't, ask me another clarifying question, and I'll do my best to dig deeper. What was the Facebook site I mentioned? Yes, Facebook Ads Library. So I'll type that down on the bottom. It's the Facebook Ads Library. If you just do a simple Google search, it should be one of the first things that come up. It's an amazing tool, and that is there thanks to the fact that Facebook got their hands slapped, a year or two ago, because they weren't doing good things with the data. So now they're trying to be a lot more transparent about what's happening from an advertising perspective. And because they're doing that, you can really go in and dig deep into what somebody's doing with their Facebook ads. And, for lack of a better term, you can copy what they're doing. And what's working. Is there a particular tool you recommend when capturing user feedback in a focus group, or when doing one-on-one customer interviews or surveys? There's a lot of tools out there for that. One of the simplest ones to do if you're going to do just simple surveys is, Google Forms works great. Google Forms you can attach to a Google spreadsheet. So if you wanted to send out a survey to have clients fill it out, all those surveys can get automatically populated into a spreadsheet. So it makes it much easier for you to look at the data. That's an easy, free, simple way to do it. From a one-on-one customer interview standpoint, I would have again, it kind of depends on how you're going to do it. When we do it, what we like to do is Zoom calls. We record the Zoom call so that we can capture the information and come back to it if we need to. But then we have a set list of questions that we're going to ask them to go through it. And typically we try to keep those calls short, like less than 15 minutes. If you send stuff out via survey, a form, I would recommend you narrow your questions down to the most important ones, because you got to keep in mind, and I'm sure this has happened to you guys, it's happened to me multiple times in the last year. You get some company sending you a survey saying, hey, we'd love to get your feedback. And you're like, sure, no problem, I'll help. You jump on and you get into it and you're like, this is a 20-minute survey. Most people are not going to take 20 minutes to do that. So when you're asking for feedback, keep it focused, keep it targeted, and make it as easy as possible for them. So I hope that helps. There are a ton of other online form survey softwares that you could get into. But if you want to keep it simple and inexpensive, Google Forms attached to a spreadsheet, I think, is a great way to do it. Yeah. So, okay. I appreciate this. So this is just feedback. I'd love to see you do 4 to 6 week Zoom group to do the marketing plan. Yes. Okay. Group Zoom would help us all share. Yep. Your time costs. So that's something that I can look into. I appreciate that feedback, Lily. I'm just writing this down. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you for that feedback. I can talk to SCORE about that. What avenues of offline marketing should be pursued? I will tell you the most common ones. And this is going to depend a little bit on your market. You know, are you in the business to business space? Are you in business to consumer? But you know, offline marketing from, you know, I can talk to you about what we do, but referral partners and strategic partners work for pretty much any business. It takes time to develop those relationships, but if you establish the right relationships with referral partners, a handful of referral partners can absolutely transform your business. So that's one. Direct mail it still works. People are still doing it. You know, our mailboxes aren't quite as full as they used to be. So direct mail is another common one from an offline standpoint. With what's happening with COVID, the conference, the in-person speaking that a lot of businesses may have been taking advantage of has changed. So there's not a lot of that going on, but that has shifted to online, right? There's virtual conferences that are coming. There's online speaking opportunities. Speaking for people that are in professional services, coaches, consultants is huge. I would highly recommend it. There's just, when you can get in front of people that are in your target market and help them, add value to them, it really helps. One, it helps build the relationship, but it helps establish credibility for you and is huge. So those are some of the bigger ones. Bear with me. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything here. You know, networking groups, a lot of people, you know, for local businesses, organizations like BNI, you know, or similar organizations can be a great way to meet people, start to develop relationships and build, get referrals that way. And then, you know, certainly from an offline standpoint, depending on where your target market is, you know, there are still people that are doing paid ads offline in magazines, print publications, those types of things. But typically I would be focusing on networking groups and building referral partner relationships. And then if you are in coaching, consulting, professional services, I would find ways that you could get in front of your audience from a speaking standpoint. Okay. We'll be able to get a recording of this meeting. Yes. So go to the link that I gave you, the rialtomarketing.com/AMA. The recording will be in there. So you're gonna have to give me your name and your email address. Once you do, you'll have access to it. If you don't want to get emails from us, unsubscribe after that. But you'll get a link, and that link looks like this. All the recordings from today will be in there, and past recordings will be in there as well. And then all the resources are in there. So, and I don't know exactly what SCORE does, but I think SCORE also may send that out, the recording as well. So I think there's multiple ways you can get the recording. Yeah, from the Zoom class. Yeah, attended. Okay, cool. Cool. So we've got about 5 more minutes. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else here. And if any of you guys have any last minute questions, pop in for that. Yeah, so Zanetta, I have your question that you skipped, UVP versus that I skipped, UVP versus positioning for product market fit. Do me a favor, I'm happy to help you. Send me an email, tim@rialtomarketing.com, and give me a little bit more information about what you're doing, what you're selling, and mention that UVP versus positioning, and I'll do what I can to help point you in the right direction there. I just need to gain a little better understanding of what you're trying to do to make sure that I'm giving you the right advice. Awesome. If you guys have any other last minute questions, please pop them in here. We've got 5 more minutes. If nobody's got anything else, then we can certainly sign off early, but I'll wait just a minute here to see if any other questions come up. And before we do jump off, I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time. I hope you got a ton of value from it. I will also take this opportunity to let you know, check out the SCORE upcoming calendar of workshops as well. I'm doing these AMA marketing events once a month, so you can jump on as you see fit, take advantage of those. I'm also I've shifted what I was doing in person with SCORE, so they're now shorter events. So I'm focusing on I have a messaging course through SCORE that I'm doing once every other month, and then I have a website class that I'm doing once every other month. So if those would be of value to you, just keep an eye on the SCORE calendar, and you can sign up for those. I think you'll get a ton of value from them. Okay, so I got a few more last minute questions here. So approach to doing a webinar. I've never done a webinar. Yep, service company, super common for doing webinars, and these can get very in-depth. But from a standpoint of a webinar, first you got to put the webinar together, right? And you want it to be positioned in such a way where you're giving your target market a ton of value, but the value you are giving them is really building credibility for you and leads into what you want to sell them. So I've seen that, like from a service company standpoint, I've seen people do webinars where they're adding value, and then their call to action at the end is to jump on a discovery call, right, to sell that. But when you're looking at your webinars, you got to put the webinar together, but then you have to have a way to promote it. If you can promote a webinar through referral partners or strategic partners and leverage their audience, that can be a great way to do it. You're probably gonna have to pay them to do that. But that can be a great way to leverage somebody else's audience if you don't have a large audience. I've seen people do paid ads on Facebook to webinars, so that's a way to do it if you don't have a large audience already. And you can also market it to your existing email list. But what I would recommend you do, I'm going to put this in the search Russell Brunson's perfect webinar script. Russell Brunson is a guy in the marketing field that has a great script for how to lay out your webinar, how you want to structure it. Check that out, and I think that will give you some good tips and tools. Yeah, so any tips on doing SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities for competitors and the overall marketing plan? Anything that you need at this point is online. So you can look at your competitors' website. You can look at all their social channels and their feeds to look at which social channels are working for them, which ones aren't, what types of posts are they getting the best engagement on, which ones aren't. There's a ton of different ways you can get in and do that. Again, using Facebook groups, online forums can be a good way to do it. There are also competitive tools. So, and this we could talk about for quite a while, but there are a lot of marketing tools out there, tools like Ubersuggest. I'll put these in the chat. Ubersuggest, SEMrush, Ahrefs are very common ones where they will dig into keyword information, traffic information for your competitors' sites, all of those things. So those tools can help give you a good idea of how their website, how your competitors' websites are working for them, and how they're generating traffic. So those are really good tools to use to figure out what they're doing well and where the opportunities are. My next website support event with SCORE, I'm not positive. Bear with me. I believe take a look. I believe it's July 9th is my next website event with SCORE. It's my next website workshop with SCORE. And then the webinar resource, go do a Google search for Russell Brunson's perfect webinar script. It's out there. I don't know. I don't think he has that on his site, but I think there's information out there for it. You could also just do a Google search for perfect webinar script, and I think you'll see a number of different resources that'll come up for that. Other than that, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Carrie Brown. Oh, I got your info there, so I will take care of that. Awesome. Guys, I'm gonna jump off. We're 1 minute behind. I want to be respectful of your time, but I hope this was helpful. Well, I'll do more of these, so if you want to jump on again, you certainly can. And I appreciate you taking the time and hope you got a ton of value from it. So thank you.